Also, I liked the fact that it felt like there was kind of almost like a triangle relationship developing, and I don't know, as you all know if you've watched any of my videos, I love me a triangle relationship. It's my favorite trope, so I was like, ooh, when it was all happening. Hello everyone, it's Luli, and today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Powerless by Lauren Roberts. But before I start, firstly, I'd like to thank all of those who have supported me and my channel through Patreons, Ko-fi, on my Amazon wishlist, as well as boosting my server. I truly appreciate it, helps with my motivation, and if you would like to join them in supporting me, then the links are below. Also, note that although I would not consider any of what I include in this video as spoilers, I'm aware that what you consider spoilers and what I consider spoilers may not quite align. So if you're even a little bit sensitive and you don't even want to know, what's on the blurb, for example, then I would swiftly move on. But anyway, let me start. So first up, what is Powerless about? So Powerless follows two main characters, Paedyn, who is sort of like this really poor girl living in the slums, as well as Kai, who is the second prince of the kingdom. And this is based in a world where there was this plague and only those with powers survived. And so basically you had different rankings of different powers. Some are obviously stronger, some are weaker. Then later on there was another plague, and the king decided it was a perfect opportunity to blame those who had no powers, called ordinaries. And he basically said that ordinaries are able to infect those who are elites or those with powers, and as a result all of them should be banished or murdered essentially. And naturally, of course, the main character, being special as is always the case, has no powers and she is ordinary, which I think is kind of cool because normally it's the other way around, Anyway, one day she's strolling through town and comes across Mr. Handsome Prince, and he's in trouble, so she saves him. And then everyone in the slums are like, "Way, how cool you are!" And then she ends up being nominated to be part of these purging trials. Now, the purging trials are these sort of different number of trials, like series of trials that kind of test the abilities of people, like the powers of people. And she is being nominated. She doesn't have any powers, so she's gonna have to pretend that she does have powers and then hopefully win these trials, or at least survive them. So yeah, that's kind of the concept. As you can tell, it is very similar to Hunger Games in many respects, actually. Just more like court drama and more like fantasy, as opposed to like the sci-fi-y vibes that Hunger Games gave off. Now, what did I like about this book? I like that, firstly, the main character doesn't have any powers, so it's all about deceit. How is she going to get through these trials without being found out that she's an ordinary? Like, it's very much like, oh, this is exciting. I also like the fact that many of the characters were morally grey. They weren't just like good or bad. They were like, I really like you, but like, you're a bit dodgy. And I love it when a character is like that because it makes them so much more complex, Also, I liked the fact that it felt like there was kind of almost like a triangle relationship developing, and I don't know, as you all know if you've watched any of my videos, I love me a triangle relationship. It's my favorite trope, so I was like, ooh, when it was all happening. Now, what did I not like about this book? So first up, it did feel very much like Hunger Games. There's some bits where I'm like, I feel like I'm reading like just a fanfic or something. There's just so many bits where I'm just sort of like, this feels way too similar. Now, it may not have been the author's, like, it may not be that she actively tried to or whatever, but it's still kind of, I don't know what it is. I know if you're a huge Hunger Game fan, you're either going to like it or dislike it, I think, because of this element. I also didn't like the fact that the romance sometimes felt a little bit like filler, because I was sort of like, it could just be that I usually care more about the plot than the romance, but I just kind of was like, come on, yeah, I get it, you like each other, whatever, moving on. And so that was another thing that I didn't like. Also, what is it with the love interest always being like cocky and smirky and all the girls like him, but obviously he only likes the main character? Like, I don't know, it's very samey. I think I've said this in the Inheritance games as well, so it seems to be a bit of a theme. Now, if you like that sort of character, then it's paradise for you because one of the characters is like that. But yeah, I don't know. For me, it's a bit samey. Last but not least, I felt like the trials were a little bit simple at times. I did like the very last trial, that was cool. But all the others just felt a bit, I don't know, lackluster. I just kind of felt a bit like they could have done more with this. They could have put more thought into how the trials are and how they win and all this. It just felt very simple, and as someone who prefers like psychological drama and trials, these felt a bit like okay. Now, for my ratings. Plot, I'd give it 3.5 stars. At the beginning, I was like, oh, this is really fun. I love it. I was like hooked. The middle part, I was like, nah, I think there was just so much romance going on that I personally didn't really care that much about. It was a bit slow. And then towards the end, I was like really excited again. And I do really want to read the second book now because of the way it ended. Characters, I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think most of them I really liked. I think my favorite character was the eldest prince. I thought he was pretty cool. The main character still has that like kind of cringy young adult vibe, but I think with her it worked and I liked it. I thought she was pretty cool, to be honest. All the other characters, some of them were really sweet, some of them not so much, but I think they worked for like their role and purpose, you know, so that's kind of my thoughts on the characters. Then you've got romance, which I gave it 3.5 stars. There was romance because it started off with tension, obviously, and it did like progress. I thought it was fun, but I do think though, I don't know, it just, I don't know what it is. I enjoyed the romance to some extent, but it did drag on at times, like some of the romance scenes. So in terms of spice, it's not that high because again, young adult fiction, so you can't really expect anything too spicy, right? But all in all, it was okay, so 3.5. Pacing, I would give it also 3.5. At the beginning, it was really fast, in my opinion. Middle bit, it slowed down, and then towards the end, it got really fast as well. So it was like, the beginning and the end was really exciting, and then some of the middle part, I was like, okay, this is dragging a bit. So that's kind of like my pacing description, shall we say, and why I gave it a 3.5. So what did I give it overall? I gave it a 3.5 stars. It's kind of like, I enjoyed it, but I probably won't read it again. It's sort of like, it was a nice, easy, fun read with a few exciting points and few romantic bits and pieces. Like, to me, a very casual, just something to stick in between some of the more serious books that I read. I am looking forward to the second one, so it did a good enough job to keep me interested, keep me guessing what's going to happen next. So yeah, I am looking forward to the second one. But yeah, 3.5, I think. Now, who would I and would I not recommend Powerless to? I would say I recommend it to those who like Hunger Games a little bit maybe, and like the whole trials thing. I do enjoy that. I do enjoy trials and like cutthroat situations. It does intrigue me and it keeps me on my toes, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, I would recommend it if that's your thing. I would also recommend it to those who enjoy romances between characters where it shouldn't really happen. I mean, you do have a prince and essentially a pauper. So, you know, that kind of complete different worlds. They should never have met, all of that. It makes it very exciting. I would also say that I would recommend it to those who don't necessarily need the main character to be like overpowered and super strong independent woman, because while she kind of is that, there are moments where she does show like that slight weakness, which personally I appreciate, but I'm aware that some of you out there would prefer a female main character that's like just strong through and through, so that is something to consider as well. Now, I would not recommend it to those who want something fluffy, who want like contemporary romance or something that's just like, I don't know, something fluffy and happier, because this is quite, it gets a bit sinister at times. There are some like surprisingly gory scenes actually where I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cringe, like it's making me cringe with the like potential pain. It's described very well. So I wouldn't I wouldn't suggest it if that's something that really affects you. I would also not recommend it if you're not into romance at all, because some of those romance scenes, like, they do drag on for a little bit. As someone who primarily reads books for plot, it did get a little bit too much, where I was like this close to just like flicking through the pages. But I don't like doing that. I like to read the entire thing. I just prefer doing that, so I did. But I can see why some people may do that. I would also not recommend it to those who prefer like brainy challenges in trials. These mostly are just like physical, so it just isn't like that. And also, as I said earlier, if you prefer your main characters to be just strong through and through, I would also not recommend this, because she does show some weakness here and there, which personally I think makes the character more realistic, but I understand that some people want like more inspirational main characters, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. Yeah, 3.5 stars, I think. A decent read. Note that the reviews that I have read have been very mixed. Some people are like, oh my god, this book was such a drag, I could not get through it, while other people are like, oh my god, this book is amazing. So, you know, it may be worth like getting it from a library or something if that's possible, or if it's on Kindle Unlimited, I don't know if it is, but to kind of see a sample of it maybe before you go straight in, because I can't say which way you will tip. You could like either love it or hate it from the sounds of it. So yeah, those are more my thoughts. As always case, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and hopefully I will see you in another one of my videos or streams. Bye!